Today is flash service and flash manufacturing PMI day for France, Germany, the UK, and the US. Flash manufacturing for France came out slightly better than expected at 50.8, but flash services were slightly worse at 49.2. German flash manufacturing PMI came out 1 point lower than expected at 47, but flash services came out slightly better than expected at 50.4. For the UK, flash manufacturing PMI came out better than expected at 46.7, but services came out worse at 48. Lastly, both manufacturing and service PMI numbers for the US came out better than expected at 46.8 for manufacturing and 46.6 for services. Later on today, quarterly CPI numbers for both New Zealand and Australia will release. Would have liked to have seen those new CPI numbers for New Zealand and Australia here in the Edge Finder, but unfortunately those won't release until much later on in the day over here in the US. But that's okay, we're going to hop into the market heat map, start off like we normally do, taking a look at our US dollar pairs first. Let's see how they're trending so far on the day. USD CHF, our biggest mover to the upside so far, up 0.44%. GBP USD, on the other hand, biggest mover to the downside, down 0.71% on the day. Major indices, we have the NZD 100 and the JP 225 are the only ones positive right now. JP 225 up 1.46% and NZD 100 up 2.66%. Our other US indices like the S&P 500 and the US 30 are down 0.38% and 0.22%. NASDAQ 100 right here, actually our biggest mover to the upside out of all of our assets so far today, up that 2.66%. If we want to take a look at gold and oil, I can see gold right here, pretty much break even. I mean, it's technically up 0.01% on the day. I'm sure that will change very, very soon. Oil down 0.7% on the day, however. Euro pairs mostly down, same with pound pairs. Pound pairs also mostly down. Euro GBP on the other hand though, up 0.58%. Euro AUD down 0.34%. Same with our pound pairs, pound AUD down 0.88% and Euro GBP right there like we just mentioned. Yen pairs also mostly down on the day. GBP JPY down 0.78%. Aussie JPY on the other hand up only 0.12%. Swiss franc pairs up on the day so far. Aussie CHF up 0.56%. CHF JPY down 0.53%. Finishing up with Australian dollar pairs and New Zealand dollar pairs, who again are getting new CPI numbers later on today. Aussie CHF up 0.56%, like we just mentioned. GBP AUD down that 0.88%. And for our New Zealand dollar pairs, GBP NZD down 0.78%, Aussie NZD up 0.4%. All right, let's get into the watch list. Let's look at some signals, some buy and sell signals that we have listed so far today here in the Edge Finder. We'll get rid of these neutral biases. I can already see that we have a lot of buy biases so far today. Let's get rid of these indices and commodities as well, because I just want to focus on currency pairs. That got rid of a lot of our buy biases, but we're still left with a couple. NZD CAD still strong buy, score of +7. That's not changed from yesterday. A lot of sells here. We have a lot of new strong sells, and in fact, GBP NZD, our biggest or our largest score, I should say, with a score of -8. Aussie NZD, Euro NZD also strong sells, scores of -6, and a lot of other sells here. But GBP NZD has taken our top spot for the largest score with a score of -8. And it's a strong sell bias. We took a look at NZD CAD yesterday, strong buy bias, score of +7. But because that has been dethroned by GBP NZD as our largest score, and it's also a sell, we took a look at a buy yesterday, we can take a look at a sell today. I think GBP NZD is our pair of the day that we're going to break down. So let's go ahead and head on over into the GBP NZD page here in the Edge Finder and just look at that. Look at that move to the downside. We'll get to that in just a second. Score of -8, like I've mentioned, COT data is a score of -2, and retail sentiment is a score of -1. We can take a look at that right here. These are our sentiment section. COT data, institutional traders currently 68.29% long on the New Zealand dollar, 31.71% short, and 61.47% short on the pound, 38.53% long. So Definitely favored long on the New Zealand dollar. Really only a slight favoritism short for the pound, however. Retail sentiment, on the other hand, 88% long and only 12% short from retail traders. So retail traders definitely favored long on the pair as a whole. Seasonality is actually a score of +1. This is our one blue box here in all of our little score breakdown. And what that means is that in the month of January, historically speaking, when we're taking a look at the 10-year average price points, this pair does perform slightly bullishly, meaning that when it finishes the month of January, it typically, when we take a look at our last 10 years average together, typically speaking, it does do slightly better throughout the month of January. However, that has not been the case so far this month. So we will see if that continues to be the trend and if this continues to move to the downside. But historically speaking, this pair typically does better in the month of January. Not this month, however, or not this year, however. Trend rating score of -2, and we can see that big move to the downside, like I just mentioned previously. For the past couple of days, past 4 days, it looks like it's made nothing but moves to the downside. So January 20th was when it was at its peak over the last couple of days, and ever since then, just more and more and more down. Price forecast based on our COT data, based on our retail sentiment, based on our fundamental data, and based on how this pair has been trending, predicts that this will continue to be the case, making more moves to the downside. I'm going to wrap up with our fundamental section here. GDP growth, inflation, unemployment, and interest rates, all -1 scores, meaning that the New Zealand dollar is currently beating out the pound in all 4 of these fundamental metrics here. So fundamentally speaking, very, very bearish. Let's check this out. Pound or UK GDP numbers. -0.3% GDP growth for the UK, 2% for New Zealand. UK inflation currently 10.5% compared to New Zealand's 7.2%. Unemployment for the UK 3.7% compared to New Zealand's 3.3%. And lastly, pound interest rates currently at 3.5% compared to New Zealand's 4.25%. I want to also mention really quickly that we have our scanner output summary down here. This is just a written summary that explains why we score these things the way that we do. So if you had a question why COT data was getting a score of -2 or seasonality was getting a score of +1, you can read down here really quickly for a written summary of why that is the case. But remember, guys, if you want the Edge Finder for yourself, you can find it in the link down in the description below, and you can use code A1YT at checkout for a discount when you purchase the Edge Finder. Super useful trading tool. Market Heatmap giving you super up-to-date analysis of how our assets are moving so far today. This is actually getting updated every 15 minutes. We can look right here at our update log, and we can see that price quotes along with the Market Heatmap get updated every 15 minutes. It was actually updated about 5 minutes ago, so pretty much right when I started recording, we got brand new Market Heatmap updates. So as the market moves, so does the Market Heatmap, as well as our watch list showing you our scores and our signals buy and sell. So yeah, code A1YT if you want to purchase the Edge Finder at a discounted price.
But you've got your gold chart pulled up. What's the latest on this one? Give us the gold chart analysis.
I mean, and with every like big sell-off, it seems to be recovering. And like I said, like last week when I came on, I talked about it potentially testing that $2,000 mark. So I think that's still very possible. But in the meantime, it's just going to be like this. You're going to see choppy markets, but kind of a steady incline in the meantime.
Yeah. So if you zoom into like the 1 hour chart here today, you can kind of see the spike that's been really going on in today's price action. It's been a quick drop off of the open here in the New York session. Do you think we hold these levels? And if we break them, do you think it turns into a short-term bear trend? Like how far do you think we could drop?
I think we're gonna have to watch these levels because this is a previous low that I like. I think it's been respecting that 200 period moving average on the 4 hour chart, but I think these two levels right here, 1911, 1897, are kind of key in direction, because if these break, um, that's starting to look like the uh, gold is topped out or something. So I'm not
Yeah,
really sure.
I would
Kind
tend
of
to
waiting to
agree.
see what happens.
Yeah, and Frank and I, for those of you guys in the audience, Frank and I tend to trade in a similar fashion. We both work on the Edge Finder. That's kind of what we work on together at the office. And of course, in a similar way, we like to trail stops. Let winners run, that sort of thing. Frank, where are you at with a trailing stop at this point on gold?
I'm still, I still have the stop loss set. I don't remember exactly where it
Okay, so you
was,
haven't
but
trailed it
the
yet.
signals. Yeah, but I think I'm actually close to break even now after this sell-off.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but I think I'm just gonna hold on to it because it's not really telling anything yet. So
Yeah, I would tend to agree. It doesn't necessarily, even though the sell-off is kind of nasty this morning, I don't think it necessarily has broken into a bearish trend by any means just yet. So yeah,
right,
I
and
tend to agree.
it's also just largely owned by like institutions still, and they're still buying it. So there's a lot of interest. 73% long, um, more than the dollar.
Yeah,
So
if
it's just, I don't know. It still looks strong to me.
do you want to pull up the smart money tracker and see what gold is looking like there? You've mentioned that. I think
Yeah,
if you've got the edge finder pulled up, that'd be awesome.
I do. So do I stop sharing and then start again?
You can join
I'll just
back.
do that.
Let me give me 1 second.
Okay,
I'll just
I think I got it.
okay.
So gold on the very far right, or second to the most right, is showing you how much its COTs owned in it. It says 72.5%, which is huge.
Yep.
Um, and I think retail's majority short too. Um, that's another thing to look at is retail sentiment, because I think we should be looking at the Kiwi still as well. They're like 90% short,
Really.
whereas institutions are still going long on this pair, or this currency, I mean.
So gold is currently heavily longed, and then you also have a couple other big names in the euro still maintaining a lot of long bias from institutional traders, and then you mentioned the kiwi uh, on the retail side. You want to show the retail sentiment and see what that looks like as well?
Yeah. Um, Let me go to. You want to see Kiwi CAD
Well, if you
retail?
go, yeah, sure, we could do NZD CAD, yeah.
Okay, it's loading up. I'm gonna click on a couple though, so we have them ready.
Yeah, I feel like with gold topping the list there, it makes sense, right? Institutional money is very long on gold right now, and we just continue to see that thing trending higher and higher. Once that cracks, it might, pivot and have a downward trend, but trying to call that top for gold has been a really tricky thing to do. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I would generally
Here's
say I'm staying long bias until it really shows signs of reversal and starts cracking the other way.
here's the NZD CAD pulled up, if y'all can see that. 92% short
Yep.
on the retail side, which is just wild because they're really hoping for some downside. But COT just keeps buying, so
Yeah, and Frank, what do you I mean, I don't know if you've noticed this pattern too, but I've talked about this on stream before. It seems like when retail traders are piled into a trade, usually it's like the trend is just going against them continuously. Like uh
yeah,
retail traders are super short while the market just trends higher and higher and higher, and then vice versa. When it's like trending down, they're just super long. They're like buying into a declining market. So I don't
well,
know, a
I
tricky
think
one there.
I think retail is right, but they're way too early. Like
Yes,
they don't wait for any sort of confirmation. They just see maybe there's an inverted hammer candle or head and shoulders pattern. They're like, okay, it's overbought on this RSI indicator, so I'm just gonna short it. And it might
right.
work in the short term, but then they realize
Yeah, and it's
somewhere down the line it doesn't, like, it's not holding because there's no big like shift coming on the fundamental side.
Make sure you guys check out the links in the description if you need broker recommendations, access to our free Discord, or want to chat with us on Telegram. If you're interested in our trading software, the Edge Finder, you can find that in the description as well. Thanks for watching.